I have 4 quick topics to talk about. And I know this is going to sound a little bit like I'm lecturing, and I'm not. I'm just really trying to kind of level set. The 4 topics, lightning round, are going to be Google and Apple are not coming to save us. Jen McCabe has absolutely nothing to do with Whitey Bulger. Jen McCabe is not on trial. And believe it or not, Jen McCabe isn't even technically related to Colin Albert. So those are the topics. Here we go. So the first thing, Google and Apple, I know. I can tell in your comments, some of you are really kind of hell-bent about this, that we should have answers. We should know what really happened with Jen McCabe and her Google searches. But here's the deal. No one from Google or Apple are ever going to come in. They're never going to get up on the stand and talk about their operating systems. They consider that trade secrets. We're never, ever going to hear from the absolute authority. That is why companies like Celebrite exist, right? Because this has happened before. And the companies are like, nope, even if the FBI subpoenaed them, they would have 57 corporate lawyers that fought it every step of the way, and it would take a year before anything ever happened. So they're not going to come in just to satisfy the curiosity of Jen McCabe's behavior. And by the way, they don't have to, because Jen is just a witness. The Commonwealth has the burden to prove one thing, and that one thing is that Karen Read murdered John O'Keefe with her SUV. That's it. They have to prove that one thing. The defense has to give the jury reasonable doubt that Karen did it. That's what we're talking about. Now, the Commonwealth, ideally, whenever you go into a case like this, yes, it would help if your witnesses were above board and they were honest people, good little church-going ladies, of course, so people would believe them, okay? The Commonwealth has been dealt a pretty bad hand. They have this entire, like, McCabe and Albert family group, plus a number of cops that are a little bit. Holistically, their group of witnesses, basically the human equivalent of a gallon jug filled with dumpster juice, right? They're corruptive, they're filthy, and they stink to the high heavens. But this is the best that the Commonwealth can do. The whole point is to have witnesses that will say, what was Karen's frame of mind? What was her relationship with John? Did she have the time and the space, and does everything line up? All they're trying to do is to get the jury to believe that Karen Read could have and did do what they're saying she did. And when Alan Jackson is going at them, all he's trying to prove is that they just can't be believed. The defense isn't going to spend a ton of money bringing in experts to prove what Jen McCabe did or did not do. What they're going to do is they're going to bring in a bunch of witnesses to prove that Karen didn't do it. That's their focus. That's where they're going to spend their money. That is what their defense is going to be. This is just Alan Jackson like flicking at all these witnesses going, look, liar, liar, liar. And hopefully the jury will have reasonable doubt. Jen McCabe isn't on trial. Neither is Brian Albert or Julie Albert or Chris Albert or Nicole Albert or Colin Albert or Brian Higgins or Matt McCabe. None of them are on trial. Do I think some of them should be? Fucking A-right, I do. I do. I think a few of them, the men, were responsible for John O'Keefe's death, and the women have all jumped in to cover it up. And the police are helping and everybody else is helping. That is what I honestly believe. And I actually believe it was an accident. I don't think they lured him there to kill him. I think they invited him to a party and somebody said something that upset something and they got in a brawl. And John fell and hit his head. That's what I honestly think happened. But nobody has to prove that. That's not this case. This is the Commonwealth versus Karen Read. And I know I love talking shit about Jen McCabe as much as anybody. But at the end of the day, we're never going to have answers to all of that because she's just a witness. She's just a witness and she's not on trial. If they were to ever arrest her, we would get those answers. But they never will. Yes, there are some videos floating around. A lot of you have come into the comments. You're tagging on videos. You're tagging on all kinds of stuff. That there's another TikToker who is claiming that Jen McCabe is related to Kevin Weeks or Harvey Weeks or someone having to do with Whitey Bulger. Now, here's what I would say. Hank Brennan has connections to Whitey Bulger. So if Jen had connections to Whitey Bulger, there'd be no way that Hank ever would be able to try this case. Ever. Ever. I promise you, it's already been dug into. In fact, my friend Googe, because you all tagged her in a million of them too, she went and researched. And I trust Googe. She knows how to do a deep dive. So if you see something on here that seems compelling, you might just want to go do a quick Google search to see if it's true. I typically go and look at the court documents. So if it's not in this trial, it's not in testimony, it's not in an affidavit, it's not been presented in any of the hearings, it's not in a police record somewhere, it's not in a phone record. If I can't validate it, then I'm not going to talk about it. And it's the same thing with Brian Albert allegedly having injuries, black eyes and an arm and a splint. I think that is just a rumor because for 3 years, we've never heard that story. And now suddenly it popped up on TikTok. I have no way to validate it, so I'm not going to let it be part of my content. I'm going to be very cautious about what shows up on my page and what conversations we have in my comments. And I know that some are still confused about Colin Albert's relationship with Jen McCabe. To be very honest with you, they're not blood relatives and they're not even related by marriage. Jen McCabe is not an Albert. Jen McCabe married into the McCabe family. Her sister married into the Albert family. Nicole is an Albert. This is what Alan Jackson was trying to get through in court, trying to spell it out. Jen is related to her sister, and her sister is related to Brian Albert. Colin's not their kid. Colin is Brian's brother, Chris, who Jen's not even related to. Now, I get it. They all grew up in a small town. They all spend Christmas together. They all go to each other's football games and all that kind of stuff. They might call her Auntie Jen, but she is not related to Chris and Julie's kids. And Chris and Julie are not related to her daughters. There's a family in between. If you need to see it on paper, I totally understand, which is why I did it. Go back to my playlist at the top of my profile. Go back to video number 9 that I did last year. I did this very rudimentary, here's this family, here's this family, here's this family. If you want something that looks a little bit more professional, go see my girl Googe. She has something posted at the top of her, it's one of her pinned videos, I think, where she has all the fancy family tree. A lot of options. There are a ton of players in this. There's going to be so many names, so many people. I had to start taking notes very early on to keep track of it all. And by the way, nearly every single man in this case is fucking bald. So it's hard. They're all bald white guys, and it's very hard to keep them all straight. It's okay to be confused because Jen's not related to Colin. Okay, more to come.